Hello. Broadcasting to you live from the Orion spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, somewhere no longer in the state of California. My name's Brian Engelman. Today is Tuesday, July the 1st, 2025. Thank you all for being here. It's done. The big, beautiful bill is passed. All right, now we're done. We don't have to keep hearing about it, right? Ugh, that was getting annoying, wasn't it? And it's so confusing. It's like intentionally confusing, right? Almost like they need things intentionally confusing to get away with what they're doing. But wait, that's not really what happened. So the Senate passed it. It was a tie. Well, there's a whole bunch of stuff that happened, but we're not done. Now it's going to the House. It's moved another step. We're going to try to unpack it and figure out what it means. It was a tie. There were some Republicans that said, no, I'm not doing this. And it was a tie. They had a tie-breaking vote. And that's like razor thin margins, they will have you believe. How should we feel about this? We'll talk about it. We'll unpack it on today's show. And we'll mix in other interesting stuff that's happening in the world. Once the comments start to populate here, we will put them on the side of the screen. So hit like, hit subscribe, however you're watching. Type your name on the side of the screen in the comments section. Tell us where you're watching from, and we will launch today's program. All right, here we go.
Your guide to the truth, thenewamericanmedia.com.
All right. Hello, Deb. Everybody else in chat, go ahead and say hello. Oh, I was supposed to do that while I was going through the intro. I was doing something else. So let me click on the various places. Let me put this up on the screen. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to have to record a little segment where I put this up here and I just press play. I wonder if I can do that. I think I can because I can record offline. I could just do this and I could say this, save it as a video, and then I could upload it and then I could just press play and it would play all of that stuff. Point being, I'm sending this out to our Facebook group and I'm going to say, join our live daily show. Faley show. Okay, well, maybe it is a Faley show. All right. Let's see if we're up on Rumble. Thank you all for being here. The big, beautiful bill has passed. Not without frustration. Not without... Well, you know, I mean, isn't this what it's supposed to be about? Now, is it fair to say that the big, beautiful bill was too damn big? Yeah, I think that's fair to say. That the big, beautiful bill cost too much money? I think that's fair to say. Should we go after? Should we target and attack Rand Paul or Thomas Massey because they're against big, bloated spending? Is that really an answer? That's an answer to what problem? I mean, that wing of the party is the sane part of the party. This running constant deficit to the point where you're beyond bankrupt. You can't even pay the interest on what you allegedly owe. It's like we didn't put ourselves into a weird fiscal spot. Previous politicians have been running their mouth and lying. That's at a certain point, that's not our fault. At a certain point, you want to get some accountability. You have to go after the retired people in Congress who have passed these pieces of legislation. We, the people, we're just sitting there going, what are you doing? And so that's the sane part of the party that says, hang on a second, let me get this straight. You want to spend more on interest payments than the entire military budget for the country? Why are we paying any interest payments? What are you doing? Why does it keep getting more expensive to get gasoline, to get groceries, to pay rent, to pay mortgage, to pay the electric bill, to pay the water bill, to pay the cable bill, to pay the internet bill, to pay for dental insurance, to pay for health insurance, to pay for homeowners insurance, to pay for renters insurance, to pay for car insurance? It's like we're getting hit with insurance from our car to our home to our apartment to our health to our teeth. I don't know why dental is any different, as if that's not a part of our body. That should be a part of your health insurance. It's like, yes, I care about the health of my fingers and my eyeballs and my teeth, but nothing below the kneecap, thank you. It's one human body. What are we doing with these insurances? And that's actually a part of this big, beautiful bill. It's saying, hold on, with the money that we are collecting as American citizens, how can we smartly, how can we wisely use our resources? Do we use those resources on American citizens, or should people who are in this country illegally be able to access our funds? Well, they're working jobs. Aren't these jobs that Americans could be working? Well, they don't want to work them. Then charge more. Charge more per hour until the free market figures it out. We're answering a lot of questions right now. And it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to make sure that this administration has enough resources to build the wall. I went to Indianapolis for Game 7 for a watch party downtown. And, every bar on that street, I mean, they had multiple people outside checking identification to make sure they knew who was walking inside of their building. They have to. They wouldn't survive. Their liquor license would not withstand allowing the doors to be wide open for anybody to walk into. And you can't do that for a country. If you can't do it for a bar in Indianapolis, Indiana, a bar and restaurant, mind you, where there are plenty of people that probably would have just wanted to walk in and eat some food. If you can't just allow random people to walk in to your establishment, your food and drink establishment in Indianapolis, Indiana, you certainly can't just waltz into a country from parts unknown, intentions unknown, rap sheet and criminal history unknown, health status unknown, financial status unknown, legal status unknown. That's just not a thing. You wouldn't just let some random person watch your child. You don't just let some random person rummage through your home. Your country is your home. And so there are provisions in this big, beautiful bill that will help this administration set up an infrastructure to protect our home. I voted for that. I'm astonished to learn what this nation has been operating under for the past, God knows how long, forever, that this is the best we've been able to come up with, something that could be so destroyed by Obama, Biden. 12 of the last 16 years, 20 years. How long has it been actively abused by defrauding the asylum system? Decades? This goes on. Well, this was pre-Obama, right? Or was he the one that really weaponized it to become a colonizer? I swear I've heard Barack Obama talking about colonizers and how being a colonizer is a bad thing, but that's exactly what the Obama doctrine has been, to flood sovereign nations with non-native populations to permanently change the demographic of that group, change the racial demographic of that group, change the religious demographic of that group. It's mainly when you talk about assimilation. Migration without assimilation is an invasion. And this isn't to go into an area to travel to Spain and to learn Spanish and to learn the customs and kind of blend in with what they're doing. It's so that you can go there, and you go there with a group large enough that you take over an area and you do your own thing. You're not trying to be a part of that team. It's like you get signed as a free agent and you go play with the Minnesota Vikings. I'll use Blake Wally's team, for example. But then you go there and you're like, no, I'm just going to do my own thing, coach. It's like, that's not how it works here. It's like, no, we're just going to do our own thing. And then you start trying to talk to other players. It's like, hey, you should join my team. We should take this team over. We should run this team. And you're like, hold on, who are you and who invited you? What's even going on here to permanently change the outlook of a nation, to permanently change the shared experiences, allowable range of activities? There's a legitimate conversation happening about Sharia law nationwide, globally, right now. The Overton window is the allowable zone of how we can live in a society together. There are practices that some people want to push on others, and that's part of the key, is pushing it on others. You might want to live a certain way and want to choose to live a certain way, and I think you should have protections. I think there should be basic protections against civil rights abuses. But when you get into wanting to live in a certain way that is a civil rights abuse upon others, and it's trying to conquer and dominate, it gets strange. And that's the conversation that's happening globally now because of what Barack Obama and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the Democrat Party have been up to for decades. So there's a lot of doom and gloom from Thomas Massey and Rand Paul and libertarians and fiscal conservatives and common sense people looking at our budget and say, man, we're beyond bankrupt. This doesn't make sense. Like we can't pay interest rates like this. We have to change. Something's got to give. You declare bankruptcy and start again. If you're getting beat by 45 points at halftime in the video game, you hit reset and you go, all right, you got me. Let's hit reset. Like at some point, you just got to look at the people that took on too much debt. And it's like, that's your fault for loaning us that much damn money. That's on you. At a certain point. And by the way, we're not the ones that took out this money. We didn't run this credit card up. Some other people did. Go after them. What do you want from us? When usury becomes overwhelming, the interest, you're paying so much interest, you can't even break even anymore. You enter a strange territory. And that's where the U.S. is at. So I understand the fiscal conservatives that want to look at the big, beautiful bill and criticize it, critique it, have problems with it. I get it. I agree to a certain degree. But government is messy. Politics is messy. And how about this? Maybe messy. We work with Massey. And we say, hey, let's go ahead and try something different. Maybe next year we could do a revision to the big, beautiful bill and project it over 9 years, project it over 10 years, do a re-up. Maybe we could tweak it and change it. And we like some of these things. There's no reason we can't try to do better next year. And I get that there's a lot of stuff we want to, projects we want to invest in to make this country better, because the sooner some of these repairs are made, it's going to start paying dividends that are going to compound upon themselves. I get that. I completely get that. So there's a lot to unpack. We should get to it. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Truth Social, Rumble, Odysee, Twitch, Kick, DLive, and YouTube, The New American Media. We're on Telegram and Signal at TNAM and TNAM Chat. We're on X at American_media_, and subscribe to our podcast at the Agree to Disagree Show on Spotify and Apple. Don't you know? I wonder if I have See, I think I have a stinger that has all of that on the screen. I just have to find it. See, that was the fun part about working with Blake was, you know, it was nice to be able to devote a little extra time during the show to like video clips and background and design and captions and you know, whatnot. I have that somewhere. He made something. I will have to find it. All right. Let's see. The big bloated bill. Exactly. What is Nasara? Am I missing what that is? National Economic Security Recovery Act. Replacing income tax with a national sales tax, abolishing compound interest on secured loans, returning to a bimetallic currency, gold and silver backed. I mean, look, I'm still, was this canceling all credit card, mortgage, and bank debts, abolishing IRS, creating new U.S. Treasury currency backed by precious metals, increasing benefits for seniors, other social reforms. I mean, at some point, something's got to give. It's just, what is that going to look like? A CBDC? Mark of the beast, where you're not going to be able to buy or sell goods unless you toe the party line, unless you don't run afoul of the overlords. I mean, we have to make some really important, tough decisions. And I just kind of keep screaming, though, that if there's no punitive measures taken for the people who are violating our civil liberties, they're going to keep trying. We have to figure out a way to protect humanity, because we're like right on the verge of all the important stuff that's going to build the box around us. The censorship, the surveillance. Read the book 1984. That's all here right now. What do we do with it? So it's an important question we should be asking. Let me click here. The donation links at the bottom of the screen. Thank you to everybody who is a Patreon member. It's a new day of the month. It's Tuesday, July 1st. So thank you to all of our monthly subscribers on Patreon. We're at the New American Media over there. Yeah, I think on the first of each month it bills. So thank you. I think you can do it for $5 a month, 15 a month, 100 a month, 1,000 a month, 10,000 a month. Whatever sounds good to you. Sounds great to us. So thank you to all of those members. We also have our tip jar, Venmo and Cash App at BrianEngelman, and PayPal at Fuzz Installment. They're all scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Also, I bet we ran a test, right? At Fuzz Installment, we couldn't find the PayPal page or the PayPal group or the PayPal profile. I don't know what you even call it, but we had to look fuzzinstallment at yahoo.com, fuzzinstallment at yahoo.com, and then it showed up on PayPal. Actually, I'm going to type that in right now. Installment at yahoo.com. There we go. Look up at. Don't forget to fix your PayPal email address. Yeah, that's what I just added it there. At the bottom of the screen, it should show up. Fuzzinstallment at yahoo.com on PayPal. That's just weird that it did that. I thought if you had the page name or the profile name, it would be that easy. But anyway, the point is, thank you to everybody. We certainly appreciate it. New month, new listings. But yeah, subscribe to us in all the platforms and connect, would ya? All right. Hello, David Ban in Ontario. We got Deb from Sacramento, Deb Aruni. David Aruni. No, I can't do that for everybody. David up in Ontario, Canada. So jump in. Let's join the conversation together. And let's get the conversation started, shall we? We got a lot to get to. Here's Carolyn Levitt. Look, immigrations and customs, it's a big issue right now. It's a big conversation. And we have to figure out what makes the most sense here. Let's go ahead and listen to Carolyn Levitt talking about what's going on with immigrations and customs enforcement. Is CNN working to undermine our federal government? That we are in strange times, people.
Thanks, Caroline. I just watched a CNN segment on a new app called Ice Block, and it kind of appear to be promoting this app where you can tell people where ICE agents are. Given the recent rise...
An app that tells people where ICE agents are?
Yes. And given the rise, I believe 500% increase in assaults on ICE agents, I wanted to see if you could comment on that and why CNN would be promoting such an app.
Well, it's a very good question. I'll have to go back and watch the clip myself, but surely it sounds like this would be an incitement of further violence against our ICE officers. As you know, as you stated, there's been a 500% increase in violence against ICE agents, law enforcement officers across the country who are just simply trying to do their jobs and remove public safety threats from our communities. And that's something we as Americans, including journalists at CNN who live in many of these cities where illegal aliens are hiding and were let in from the previous administration, should be very grateful for. So we haven't seen the clip. We'll take a look at it, but certainly it's unacceptable that a major network would promote such an app that is encouraging violence against law enforcement officers who are trying to keep our country safe.
Yeah, it is terrible. So I guess in the comments. So if InfoWars can be bankrupted for overdoing over a story, what happens to CNN after doxing ICE without punishment? These acts of treason will continue. It's crazy. 500% increase in assaults against ICE agents. So, I mean, they're promoting an app. Remember when Caitlin Collins was promoting what was it? The GoFundMe of who? Let me ask Grok. Caitlin Collins promoted the fundraising site for who? What was it? Carmelo? Or was it someone else? Oh, it was Luigi. That's what it was. It was Luigi. Yeah, actually, I'll make that comment. CNN also promote a Luigi donation site. Kevin Kiley here. Oh, what's the screen look like? I need a second screen up here. Sorry. There we go. Criminal News Network. Yep, CNN. Kevin Kiley, California, says in an unhinged rant, Gavin Newsom claims that I betrayed my voters by requiring able-bodied adults without kids to work or volunteer 20 hours a week in order to get free government health care. This from the governor who bankrupted Medi-Cal by giving full benefits to illegal aliens. Newsom name-checked two Republicans, Representatives Vallado and Kiley, who voted for it. How shameful it is for these representatives to walk their districts and betray their own voters like this, he said. Should Americans be prioritized? So here's a Donald Musk. Trinidad Diaz Martinez, an illegal alien from El Salvador with prior convictions of child abuse. Yeah, you know what? I am good. Country's full. We don't need anybody with child abuse. What is it? Convictions. There we go. Anybody can have an accusation. I'm good. Country's full. This is what you filter out. I don't want any convicted child abuser. No, I'm good. We're full. So they went to arrest this guy. Oh, and he had re-entry after deportation. He was deported previously, and he's back again. The convicted child abuser, illegal alien from El Salvador is back again after being evicted previously. He's not getting the message. This is exactly what we voted for. Fewer child abusers. Because common sense. By the way, they found him with another illegal alien. They arrested him too. More of this, please. Okay. I'll say addition by subtraction. Yeah, that's addition by subtraction. No thanks. Thank you, everybody. I'd rather not assault these ICE officers. I'd rather let them do their job and clean up our country so we have fewer convicted child abusers from El Salvador. You're damn right we voted for this. This is super straightforward here. And you better be, there's a CBP home app. Log in, go home, get in the system, go wait in line from the courtesy of your own home. And look, the system has been completely rigged, completely gamed to abuse the asylum claims. There are probably people who are legitimately making asylum claims, but to do so, there's a full process that you should be doing. The Democrats have messed the entire process up intentionally to make it seem like when you come back in to clean up, oh, look at these guys. They're so heartless. Look at what they are doing to the system. No, the system has been intentionally rerouted and scammed to the point where it's not functional. It's being rebuilt in a reasonable way. And we apologize to anybody impacted for what the dirty deep state Democrats have done to you, using you and your life as a pawn to try to get representation in blue cities and blue states, to try to get more funding that they could money launder through not GMOs, through non-governmental organizations, NGOs. And everybody takes a cut. Save 10% for the big guy, don't you know? It's a damn shame what these people have been doing, these dirty deep state Democrats. Best we can do is apologize on behalf of the people that we oppose in almost every policy position that they take. It's not like we're responsible for what the Democrats did to you because we've been opposing them for these obvious reasons for a very long time. So it's not our fault that we're cleaning up the mess that they made. But this is a first step to get there, having some budget. In setting things up and being appropriated over the next few years so that that aspect of things is under control now. Because the more time you spend wasting and back and forth on everything you need to get your funding, it's a mess and it grinds everything to a halt. That being said, this debt has got to be addressed in a serious way because this felt unserious. So I would like to see a mending of the fences with President Trump, Rand Paul, Thomas Massie, have a beer summit. I'll invite them out here. We'll go somewhere right here in Kentucky. The four of us. Bring Stephen Miller, Carolyn Levitt, bring some of the people in Scott Bessent. We'll have a beer summit. We'll have a bourbon summit. How about that? A bourbon summit here in Kentucky. Because Thomas Massie and myself and Rand Paul are from Kentucky. So we'll do that here. A bourbon summit. We want to find ways for Thomas Massie and Rand Paul to get some wins, some budgetary wins, some legitimate cuts, some shocks to the system so that we can get a hold of what's going on in our budget, because the math ain't mathin'. And just kicking the can down the road with a big, beautiful, bloated budget, boondoggle, that doesn't do it either. We need to undo a lot of what Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, the Democrat Party have wrecked over the past 16 years. So I get that we need some funding for it. Like, And I just relay this back. If you ever worked on a large project, and I literally worked on large projects, I lived in the hood. And we had 25 buildings, and there was a lot that needed attention, a lot of damaged stuff, a lot of stuff that needed cleaned up, repaired. And it takes years to get the budget working but I'll tell you, there are benefits. There are instant benefits to when you start leveling things up. Sometimes the quicker you can fix ongoing obvious problems, it frees up your resources to then address the next step. So I'd really like to hear, since this budget was allegedly not the appropriate location to handle the Doge cuts, this budgetary process was just, it's all legalese. I had this debate with a producer yesterday, working with Fox. And she posted about the Diddy trial. And I'm like, yeah, I wonder what's going to happen now that the 5 charges were dropped. And she's like, I had to delete your comment, and they didn't actually drop charges. I'm like, I've literally read multiple reports that charges were dropped. And it's like, no, they withdrew charges. And so they withdrew them because they couldn't prove them. I feel like that should be double jeopardy attached. They're like, no, they're just making it easier for the jury to understand directives. I'm like, but if you charged them in the first place, so there's dropping charges and then there's withdrawing charges. They're saying 5 charges, 5 accusations were withdrawn, but the same penalties are going to apply. They're just not going to try to argue that point as a part of. I just said that still feels like that should be double jeopardy attached. That's not to say I'm supporting or opposing Diddy. I'm not watching every aspect of his gross little trial. I'm just, catching updates here and there. But it's the point being, it's about the sneaky lawyer speak that they write everything in, because everything's got to be a connived, sneaky, nobody really knows, or it's kind of hidden in plain sight, but it doesn't mean what you think it does. But there's checks and balances, which are good, except they're usually used with lobbyists involved to tweak in special interests and money laundering and running up the debt even further, and corruption and bribery and blackmail and treachery and violence and replacing people that won't play ball. It gets really gross really quick. But that's how the sausage is made politically. So there's the reality of the infrastructure we're currently living in. I know that there's libertarian friends that I value the opinion of greatly. But the reality is, you got to get some real stuff done in the real world. And if this budget passing is going to be a part of it, fine. But let's just have a bourbon summit and focus on more cutting for whatever the next step is. When we get through this, if the House approves it and then the president signs it, we'll see. Because it's not done yet, the big, beautiful bill. But look, I support giving more money to ICE so that we can remove convicted child abusers who have been previously deported. If you say, well, I'm in agreement with that too. You know what? That does sound mighty fine. However, that's not what I'm arguing about. What I'm arguing about is the fact that a large majority of who they are deporting are not these people. I understand that perspective, but all of these people have not cleared the full protocols to be here properly. Once again, apologies on behalf of America for what the Democrats did to work you in as a pawn. There's legislation, Marjorie Taylor Greene put it out yesterday, and President Trump's already supporting it to get an instant census count that only includes citizens, and you have to check and verify the people are eligible for their vote to count, for their not for their vote to count, but for their residency in a location to count toward the census for purposes of redistricting and appropriating congressional seats based on population. If the Democrats are overthrowing the United States intentionally in an act of colonialism, and in some ways to make sure that they're bribed with, hey, if we get you here, we'll get you enrolled in all these programs paid for by the American citizen. Well, look, that was never voted on. That was a sneaky little pirate job done by Biden, Kamala Harris, the Democrat Party, and Barack Obama. That's not what the country has ever agreed to. That's the sneaky theft that they've been up to. Some call it treason. Once again, you don't blame the MAGA crowd for getting wrapped up in the middle of this. Well, there's people that don't have convictions for child abuse on their record that are getting deported. Well, use the CBP Home app, go home, get in line, and get into the process that the new administration is putting into place. Because we're in trouble as a nation if you don't have shared customs, shared values, shared expectations. If we're taking so much money that we can't come up with enough, so we just keep throwing it on a credit card month after month, and the bill keeps growing month after month, it's not sustainable. We're yelling, we're flashing red lights. So anytime money is going anywhere but the bare basics of where it needs to be prioritized, we have a problem. And that has to be addressed. And that is a huge part of why ICE is working to restore an immigration system in this country. CBP Home, to the best of my understanding, provides anybody who's here illegally a way to identify themselves, self-deport. I think they even get money, a couple $1,000s, or they get free tickets or transportation, buses, trains, airplanes, airports, flight, Uber travel, something, to go do it the right way. Well, when I did it, it was okay. Well, once again, that's what we can't speak for whatever the Democrats were up to, trying to artificially inflate the size of their blue cities so they could artificially inflate the importance of their Democrat seat to go into our halls of Congress in Washington, D.C. and vote crazy and run up these debts. Now, I know the Republicans have done plenty of it too. That's why we need the Bourbon Summit. So in the big, beautiful bill, they're going to be working with ICE. And to many, that's a good thing. All right. So we got to unpack what this is. They were saying yesterday, the U.S. Senate rejected a measure to kick illegal aliens off Medicaid, 56 to 44. It was going to only need 50 plus 1 votes. But the Democrat parliamentarian decided it needed 60 votes while scrutinizing the big, beautiful bill. Fire her. Got to change the size of the screen. You know what? I guess let me ask Grok fresh. Let me get a fresh conversation here. I'm going to say summarize the key points and changes made to the big, beautiful bill that just passed the Senate. Because some of these posts are going to be from previous things because they stayed up all night working on it. So I don't want to spend too much time on that stuff. Okay, here we go. OBBBA, One Big Beautiful Bill Act. It's a budget reconciliation bill passed by the U.S. House of Representatives in May of 25, May 22, by 1 vote. In the Senate today, 51 to 50 by 1 vote. So the House and now the Senate. J.D. Vance broke the tie. Key elements of Trump's domestic policy agenda that focused on tax cuts, spending adjustments, and border security is there. Below is a summary of the key points and changes. So hold on, I was reading it a little differently. Or maybe I'm just jumping past. Okay, concerns about the Senate. All right. The House has a narrow Republican majority, and some GOP members like Chip Roy expressed concerns about how the Senate's changes, particularly regarding the deficit and specific provisions. The bill's final passage in the House is uncertain due to these dynamics, and it faces a tight timeline with the debt ceiling approaching August of 25. Till the House approves the Senate's amended version and the president signs it, it's not law. So key points, tax policy changes. This is according to Grok. Permanent extension of the 17 tax cuts, preventing tax increases of 62% for taxpayers. Okay, that's good. Permanent corporate and individual tax cuts. Senate pushing for permanence over temporary extensions. Child tax credit increases from $2,000 to $2,200 permanently. Inflation adjustment 25 in 2025. I mean, that's senior deduction, $6,000 tax deduction for those 65 and older. I don't know. No tax on tips, allows deductions for tips and overtime, phasing out incomes above $150,000. Okay, so I guess you get your first $150,000 in tips for free. I mean, that's going to help a lot of people immediately. State and local tax deduction, SALT, cap raises $10,000 to $40,000 for married couples with incomes of up to $500,000. Medicaid cuts, stricter eligibility checks, and an 80-hour-a-month work requirement for able-bodied adults, exempting parents of children under 14. SNAP cuts, stricter eligibility, squeezing out people that might not, air quote, deserve it. Rural hospitals funding increases double to $50 billion, up from 25. I mean, that's investment in infrastructure. I mean, that's kind of a good idea. If you're going to do anything, that's a good place to put money into, so that you have additional facilities of quality throughout the country. $12 billion now for border security, including funding of the border wall, 10,000 ICE officers, and enhanced customs and border protection resources. Strengthens deportation efforts and border. I mean, they're going to build out infrastructure now. They're going to put stuff in place. This is border security is a good thing for a nation. Described as the most significant border enforcement strengthening in history. Some green energy cuts are going to phase out tax credits for solar and wind starting in 26. Fully eliminated by 28, except for nuclear, hydropower, geothermal, and battery storage. It repeals the Biden-era methane taxes and promotes oil, gas, and aviation fuel production. Well, we should have energy dominance, 100%. Defense spending is up $150 billion for military modernization and border security. $10 million for the Department of Defense Inspector General to oversee programs, including those with classified matters. So they're expanding their oversight. They want to know what all the departments are up to. Invest in aviation infrastructure modernization to address ATC staffing shortages and outdated equipment. Yes, you're damn right we voted for that. But shouldn't that be part of the $150 billion for military modernization and border security? You know, maybe tighten this up a little bit. Can't we give Rand Paul and Thomas Massie a little bit, cut back a little bit, prioritize a few things? Can we tighten this up a little bit more in the next round? Raises the debt ceiling by $5 trillion. That's higher than the House's $4 trillion. So they negotiated and said, nope, we need more to avoid default by mid-August of 25. So it would be nice to get this off of the headlines. I'll tell you what. I certainly don't want to be hearing about the debt ceiling increase every single day on every channel for the next month and a half. Maybe it's a little thing, but my God, I couldn't handle the Chicken Little, the sky is falling nonstop for 6 weeks. Yeah, well, that's nothing compared to the sky actually falling when we divest, when we devolve. I think I'm looking for the word devolve. That's how my brain works. When we devolve into hyperinflation like Zimbabwe, and our currency will be mere toilet paper. Well, yeah, that would be awful. We're trying to avoid that too. hence the Bourbon Summit in Kentucky. I'd like to host this. I go by many nicknames. One is Brian the Bartender. We'll go meet. We'll go to Jim Beam Distillery or Buffalo Trace Distillery. We'll find a place. Maybe we'll have Mr. Massey and Mr. Paul host at one of their farms or something. I'm down for whatever. But yeah, I mean, we need to find a way to can we tighten it up a little bit? Can we tighten this up even more? I know we're getting a lot of things, but let's imagine that cutting spending is pretty important. Can we tighten it a little bit? 10%, 20%, like, can we give a little bit? Give these guys a couple wins? I don't know. I think that would be smart. But it's not like they have to. Losers complain about fairness. Winners go home and bang the prom queen. What's that from? I cleaned it up. Also, taxes and regulations on silencers, short-barreled shotguns, and rifles have been removed. That's good. An initially proposed 10-year ban on state-level AI regulations was removed after the Senate. Funding for sanctuary cities has been eliminated. Oh, this is great. Because this is what they're doing in these Democrat cities. They're overthrowing the native population with illegal alien invaders. This is their plan. This isn't how anything works in the real world. Of course, this was going to be changed. You would not allow your country to operate this way. You wouldn't operate your family this way. You wouldn't operate a business this way. You wouldn't operate a bar and restaurant in Indianapolis, Indiana this way. Of course, you're not going to operate a country this way. You know that to be true. That is obviously true. That is obviously how this was going to play out. Sanctuary city funding is eliminated and certain EPA mandates per an X post that's inconclusive. Anyway, that's some of the update of what's going on with the big, beautiful bill. We will see what the next step is. I don't know. Did I give you some bullet points? Do you feel smarter having read some of that? It was very, it was a little wordy, a little verbose, but there's a lot to unpack. And of course, this is just Grok's summarization. And Grok, of course, got this. From 33 posts in 15 web pages. Congress.gov, BBC.com, Guardian.com, etc. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and retweet some of these. Some differing opinions on it. All right. So I'm sort of happy that's done. Let's switch back. Yeah, and this was all, by the way, I went off on this because I'm trying to read you the news here. But a lot of these stories were prior to all of the developments from yesterday. So let's buzz through, see what else we wanted to talk about on our Instagram feed. Babylon B hilariously reports that Mom Donnie clarifies he's not a communist. He merely wants to seize the means of production and put all of the capitalists in gulags. You know. You got to clarify. All right, look, I'm as frustrated as anybody else. David, I want to speak directly to David for a second. David, how are you, sir? Good to have you here. Good to see you. Okay. We've been going nonstop saying, where are the arrests? Okay. I get Epstein. I don't know what we're supposed to do about JFK at this point. What else do we normally complain about? Epstein. And then all the treason we've had over the past 10 years, of course. But this is an update I think you would like to hear because I appreciate hearing it. We cannot say that just because we're not getting answers that are fast enough to ongoing legal frustrations that we've identified, such as Epstein, like, what's the truth here? Don't lie to us anymore. We can't say that nothing is happening, because to say Dan Bongino and Pam Bondi and Kash Patel are doing nothing, that's not fair. So let's play the good with the bad. Here's Matthew Gagliotti, Department of Justice, head of the criminal division. Let's take a listen to this, shared from the Epoch Times or the Epoch Times.
Announced the largest coordinated healthcare fraud takedown in the history of the Department of Justice.
Let me point out something real quick. The scam, the fraud, the theft, the piracy, the invasion, the colonization, the invasion, the overthrow of the sovereign United States of America through rampant, directed Obama doctrine, mass migration without integration, without assimilation, hence an invasion. There is an economic apparatus attached to this. And it's the tentacles are everywhere. The strings are being clipped from the pivot points. The marionette puppet can no longer move in certain directions. They're being slowly paralyzed as if caught on a spider web, getting little Novocaine bites as they work their way around. I don't know. Is that a weird analogy? Or if you're getting work done on your, they give you one shot, then you feel it, then they give you another, and you feel it again, then it kind of. I don't know how much illegal alien money is being filtered through this crackdown. But I also couldn't understand why illegal aliens were given 5-star hotels bought and paid for by our dollars instead of being used to help rebuild in FEMA in North Carolina after those floods, those historic floods, the Palisades in Hawaii, after the historic fires ripped through and just destroyed their entire community. East Palestine, Ohio, where inexplicably, instead of cleaning up the mess, it was decided to explode it and launch it into our atmosphere and our ecosystem instead of cleaning it up appropriately. They were taking our money from FEMA, allegedly. I think it's confirmed. But you know how some of these things are. Maybe so, maybe not. Maybe there's accusations, or maybe in a roundabout way. Maybe it's not exact, but I think it's true. FEMA money was misappropriated for handouts to illegal alien invaders instead of American citizens who need help. So, as we listen to this report here from the Department of Justice, a lot of money transfer has just been disrupted, which goes further down their line of foot soldiers who are being paid as paid agitators, paid actors and actresses in this grand charade to overthrow the United States. I'm not overselling this. I'm not attempting to be hyperbolic. Oh, he's being controversial. No. I'm like, just follow the money. You see the plan. You see what the Democrats have been up to. The jig is up. And the piracy is beyond astonishing. There's no way you could look at the top 50 most important issues from the Democrat Party and think that America is, it's razor thin. It's close. They're kind of like a 50-50 country. They go one way and then the other. They're kind of the same. They've been rigging all of it for 100 years or more. And now we see it. We're seeing the funding mechanism. We're seeing through the fake news propaganda. This is a 70-30 country. And it's time that the majority of this country worked with sane legislation, sane prioritization. And look, you can be all sorts of critical of President Trump. You have every right to do that. You know what? I feel like he's trying to stop some wars, and I appreciate that. Congo, that war was stopped. Brokered peace between Iran and Israel. Oh, well, you say he dropped the bombs. Well, you know what? A decision had to be made once and for all. Is it cool for Iran to run these massive programs and they fall out of IACA or International Atomic Energy Committee, whatever it's called? They fell out of compliance. They're doing stuff in the dark. It's like, you know what? Stop. You're not doing this anymore. Made the decision. It's done. Go to the negotiation table. We're negotiating under new terms. That's no longer an option. What comes next? You used to hear reports that Iran was a pretty great place in the 70s, and then bad stuff happened. It's a foreign policy decision. We'll see how that plays out over time, whether you agree or disagree with President Trump's involvement, whether you thought Benjamin Netanyahu got us involved, like kind of picking a fight with a bully on the schoolyard, and then now we're in the middle, we're swinging, we're throwing punches. We didn't want to be a part. We didn't ask to be a part of this. We didn't need to be a part of this. We didn't need to spend the money to be a part of this. We'll see how history judges that. But I do see a genuine effort being made to stop unnecessary spending and expenditures and to stop warfare globally. Really trying hard to get Zelensky, and has he had Putin in? Maybe Putin needs to come visit. Maybe they need a vodka summit. I, Brian the bartender, would like to host a vodka and Diet Coke summit. Is it Pepsi or Diet Coke? Diet Coke, right? He's got the Diet Coke button on his desk. I would like to host a vodka and Diet Coke summit for Zelensky and Putin and Trump. I'll probably do a jacket. Maybe I'll do mostly black, all black. Maybe I'll do jeans. Maybe I'll do, I know President Trump likes his suits. Maybe I'll do a black suit. I don't know, Doc Martens or dress shoes. I don't know. But I do like a white button-up shirt and a thin tie, or like a thick black tie on a black shirt. I don't know. But I would host that summit because I feel like we're trying to end war, trying to avoid unnecessary foreign conflict, and recognizing that Obama's likely been in bed with the wrong other leaders in the other wrong countries pushing the wrong propaganda. Look at Brazil. Look at El Salvador. Look at Iran. Obama freed up a whole bunch of money to give him. Remember that? Pallets of cash? You know. So when the funding mechanism changes, everything changes. And President Trump running our military and having the right appropriations amount where he can strategize and figure out, I want to run this operation. We're taking it out of this budget. Here's what it's a corporation. You have to figure out how you're going to run things, or at least that's how a businessman operates. Maybe a lack of businessmen involved is what got us into this terrible financial position to begin with. So all that to say, take a listen here. A lot of people have been charged. There is so much rampant waste, fraud, and abuse. This Doge concept continues to spiral out. And the concept of prioritizing waste, fraud, and abuse is now spilled into Medicare, Medicaid, and it's about to get spicy. This is a very good development. Thank you, Department of Justice. Here we go.
Today marks a decisive moment in our fight to protect American taxpayers from fraudsters and to defend the integrity of America's healthcare system. We are announcing today charges against 324 defendants for their alleged participation in healthcare fraud schemes involving approximately $14.6 billion in false claims submitted to Medicare, Medicaid, and other healthcare programs. As we announce the largest coordinated healthcare fraud takedown in the history of the Department of Justice. Today marks a decisive moment in our fight to protect American taxpayers from fraudsters and to defend the integrity of America's healthcare system. We are announcing today charges against 324 defendants for their alleged participation in healthcare fraud schemes involving approximately $14.6 billion in false claims submitted to Medicare, Medicaid, and other healthcare programs.
That is a mammoth amount. I know that played twice. I thought the clip was longer. So congratulations to the Department of Justice. I mean, there is so much of this piracy. It's piracy going on. Organized theft, criminal activity. Let's see the list of names and NGOs. That's what I'm saying. But bravo, that's a big move. Anna Paulina Luna was complaining that the Senate was going to leave illegals on Medicaid, but it looks like that's been worked out. Yep, Stephen Miller saying they're trying to exclude illegal aliens from the U.S. Census here. David Harris reporting. This would take away several House seats from places like California. J.K. Rowling put this out. I know, please get to unsealing. I know, well, either Kash Patel's full of it or he's going to be full of surprises. And it's just taking a minute to get all of the ducks in a row to then launch. Everybody deserves a little bit of time to get their bearings about them, you know? We've all been through that. A lot of moving parts to get figured out. J.K. Rowling says, Stephen Ireland, who targeted me with endless abuse on here, was this X or Meta? Maybe it's X. Because I oppose the chemical castration of children and the removal of protected spaces for women and girls, that guy who targeted J.K. Rowling has just been sentenced to 30 years in jail for child R. Yeah, go figure. A boy of 12 years old. Gross. Anna Paulina Luna was going wild yesterday, saying a majority of Congress is bought and paid for by big pharma, and these pharmaceutical companies are protected from liability. It's gross how children are considered a transactional profit in this industry, and Congress could care less. This stat is not just alarming, but horrifying. She's responding to this report. This is making the rounds now. Bobby Kennedy said the CDC covered up. This is according to the leading report here. One of the biggest stories ever. Bobby Kennedy Jr. says the CDC covered up an internal study that found a 1,135% increase in autism risk from the hepatitis B vaccine. %1,100% increase of autism from the hepatitis B vaccine. Bobby Kennedy, our Director of Health and Human Services, says the CDC covered up an internal study that showed an 1,100% increase. That should make our blood boil. David here in the comments says, all I can say is please let's get to the unsealing of documents. Saying what after how many is that? 5 million, 500,000, 500,000. When I start looking at too many zeros in a row, I call it the snowman rule. I just picture a snowman on his side. You can't do too many zeros in a row. Like the eye starts going batty. It's like, is that 13, 14, 15, 16, or 17 zeros in a row? You're like 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 7, 6, 5, 6, 5. Shit. Too many zeros in a row. Get tough for me to read. You liked when it showed how many indictments per state. Deb favors legal aliens. Yeah, any favorites? The Pleiadians. The Pleiadians. How do you pronounce that? The Pleiadians. The Seven Sisters Lodge. David saying, it is a very good start to justice, I hope. Deb agreeing there are many moving parts behind the scenes, of course. And yes, when is the Fort Knox audit? Yes! I offer to break bread. The Bread and Bourbon Summit at Fort Knox. We're going to roll in the smelters because every bar has to be melted down live. We're going to make an event out of it. We're going to stream it live. We're going to put the operations. We're going to forge it nonstop. We're going to count the gold bars and we're going to melt them, smelt them, make sure there's no impurities to make sure. Well, how do we know? That could be tungsten painted with spray paint. How would we know? That's why we're going to smelt them live. We're going to break bread. I feel like one of these guys makes bread or something. I think Massey has a functioning farm. Maybe you could donate some steaks or some burgers. Ooh. President Trump likes his burgers. And we'll have some bourbon and Diet Coke. He'll have Diet Coke. I'll have some bourbon. Well, you wouldn't actually drink if you met the president. You're damn right I would. I'd go slow. One big rock of ice. Something to sip on. And a soda on the side. Lemon lime. Gives you a balance. So that's what we'll do. We'll have a smelting party, breaking bread, a bourbon sit down, a bourbon summit, like Obama's beer summit. Remember that, crock? Oh, if I had a summit, it would look like Obama's. Sometimes when I feel like when I'm doing my Obama impersonation, when I'm doing my Obama impression, I feel like I'm doing The Rock. A little bit. It's I told Michelle the other day, I'm not going to get the old okey doke. It's about the cadence and, the jazz drumming component to how I talk. Kind of some stops and starts. A little bit of my Obama is maybe a little bit like not Christopher Walken. Who is it that I'm thinking of? No, not Bob Hope. Who is it? With the, it's sort of the William Shatner. A little bit of stop and start, stop and start. The cadence of what I'm saying almost doesn't make sense. So, I think that's where a bit of my Obama comes from. A lot of because when I get off script, I do kind of sometimes tend to blather because I'm good with the old okey doke reading off a teleprompter, but do I even have an original thought in my head? And that's what Michelle says these days. We're not all that close after the whole paddleboarding incident, but we're working through it for the kids. Sasha, Malia. Glances up at the clock. It's been blinking red for 7 minutes. You've been doing your Obama impression for 42 years. Has it been that long? Anyway. Yeah, so good. We're going to audit Fort Knox is the point of this. Bourbon Summit, Thomas Massey, Ron Paul. Actually, you know what? Let me invite some of I would like to provide an open mic forum. 60 seconds. By applause, if somebody gets a great 60 seconds, let the crowd give them another minute. Or whatever, do 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Let's get some smart people in the room to talk about our budget and the situation. And let's audit Fort Knox. And let's figure out what we're doing with crypto. Let's lower these damned interest rates to almost zero already. And let's get our country back. How about it? That's my Bourbon Summit idea at Fort Knox. We're going to resmelt every bar so we can watch. We're going to put live cameras on it, live feed 24/7. From start to finish, you're going to watch the process. Nothing's out of sight. You're literally going to melt it on site. You're going to pour it into the new gold bars that are going to be stamped MAGA 2025. Verified with a barcode and a number. Ooh, how about we make a crypto version of that? Where are my tech bros? Who can make this happen for me? We'll sync this cryptocurrency up with the stamped and traced gold bars that we're going to keep in reserve. Physical gold reserve in Fort Knox. Resmelted. And individually numbered. Sequentially cataloged. Then maybe we could make a cryptocurrency that is in direct proportion to the amount of physical gold that's in that location. Is that a thing? Can we make that a thing? Can I become filthy rich off of that thing? Where are my tech bros that want to make that happen? Let's partner up on that. Something. But I want a bourbon summit, at least, so that we can talk. I want to invite Dave Smith, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, John B. Wells. I've got 100 people I'd like to invite. And it's my event, so I can invite them, darn it. But let's do this at Fort Knox, bourbon. We'll partner up with some bourbon to provide it, and we'll figure it out. We'll get some catering. Diet Cokes, burgers from one of the farms. I love this idea. We should make this happen. Anyway, back to Anna Paulina Luna. She's upset. Bobby Kennedy's upset. We should all be upset. If that report is true. Ahmed Y says Democrats wanted to hire 87,000 IRS agents to harass everyday Americans. David finds it strange that President Trump drinks that poison. Yeah, I I was recently entertaining a guest for 2 weeks, which was great. But man, oh man, does it put you in different cities, traveling, different places, out of your regular routine. I drank more sodas and diet sodas in the past 3 weeks than I've drank in a long time. I've gone to great lengths to really reduce it. The interesting part was, though, the whole top left of my fridge was full of Red Bull, Monster energy drink, some other energy drinks, some other energy, I don't know, just things you collect along the way. And this dude drank all of them. I'm like, good. I don't need that sitting around, because I used to drink that stuff. I used to hammer some of that. Not so much anymore, but man, it's been a weird week with a lot of fast food and a lot of, oh my gosh, am I really drinking another soda? Ugh. That's like, what options do I have? A milkshake? Like, geez. Anyway, I digress. Yeah. I used to drink so much diet pop. So yeah, anyway, Ahmed says Democrats wanted to hire 87,000 IRS agents to harass everyday Americans. Republicans are hiring 10,000 ICE agents to protect everyday Americans. We are not the same. This new poll, Gallup poll, shared by Gentry Gevers, says 92% of Americans are extremely or very proud to be American. There you go. Looking at the graph, the chart there, it's the red one up at the top. Kind of going, starting at 2001. Started 90. We went down, went up, down, up in 16 when Trump was there, 17, 18, maybe 19, and then dropped over the past few years under Biden, and then back up to 92 right now. But look at this. Democrats started at 84. They're now at 36. What is going on with the Democrats? Why are they sitting at 36? It's because the message of that party, the Democrats are peddling poison. That's what they're doing. It is doom and gloom and division and hatred. It is bad news bears over there to be a Democrat. And Americans are not a fan of whatever message they're putting out there. Turns out the Democrats aren't in favor of it either. 84% of people in 2001 were either extremely or proud to be American. And look at it dropping off. It looks like maybe man, did it crater from 2014 to 2020. A bounce in 21. That's up to, what was that? A high of 53 there. No, I'm sorry. That's 60. I'm trying to zoom in and read this. 36%. That's what you need to know. 36% of the Democrats are happy to be here. They need new leadership. That party needs to be destroyed and scattered to the wind. smashed to 1,000 pieces. Here's
What you
Nelson with that conversation we've all been talking about.
would do if you wanted to find the answer, which is to compare outcomes in a fully vaccinated group to health outcomes in an unvaccinated group. And CDC did that study in 1999. They brought in a team of scientists under a Belgian researcher named Thomas Verstraeten, and they looked at the data. They looked at children who had received the hepatitis vaccine within the first 30 days of life, and compared those children to children who had received the vaccine later or not at all. And they found an 135% elevated risk of autism among the vaccinated children. And it shocked them. They kept the study secret, and then they manipulated it through 5 different iterations to try to bury the link. And, you know, what you would do if you wanted to find the answer, which is to compare outcomes in a fully vaccinated group to health outcomes in an unvaccinated group. And CDC did that study in 1999. They brought in a team of
99. They've been doing this for 26 years now. So I'm guessing they're going to have spin that says there might have been a preliminary report, but we weren't controlling for some variables. We ran subsequent reports that didn't show the initial. And then that one was actually the outlying study because we weren't able to replicate it. I'm guessing that's what they're going to say. I don't know. But I do have a psychology degree, and a lot of that is going into the pseudoscience and the experiments and the self-reporting and the numbering and the ranking of how people feel after receiving certain treatments, and just objectively going through the data. Once a researcher comes up with a hypothesis, and then they get the funding. Usually, let's be honest, they get the funding, then they form the hypothesis, then they run the study, hoping to confirm the thing that their funders want them to find. So, remember Sammy Jenks? What movie is that from? Remember the source. Consider the source. That's what it is. Consider the source. So if there are people that are giving you money, wanting you to kind of hoping you say something, guess what? There might be positive reinforcement. If you say the thing, I get another treat. I'll take another treat. Thank you. And that's what the Green New Scam has been all about. If you deliver us reports that keep showing that this whole carbon crisis is real, we're going to keep giving you money. That's been happening for 20 plus years. Instead of just looking at what's actually going on for the purpose of science. It's like, well, you know, we can raise money. We can grab taxes from here and reroute them here, then funnel them and siphon them. We can probably take them from Homeland Security to say it's Homeland Security that our environment. So we're going to get a green program. We'll take it from Department of Homeland. So we can probably get it from the military. I mean, the military is here to protect our land. And if we're not protecting the green nature and the carbon, the offset, then we can reroute this money to a non-governmental organization and get our foot soldiers to go and push these issues, bribe and pay off our media companies to promote it. This is what's been happening. Reality hasn't been reality for a very long time. And the funding mechanism is a big part of the reason why.
Of scientists under a Belgian researcher named Thomas Verstraeten.
So he's explaining this clinical trial. You know, was it double-blind placebo testing? You know, there's certain phraseology, certain framing, certain parameters that simply must be met if you want to consider a study to be valid. If not, you know, more power to you. But if you can't do that, then really let's not mess around calling it a real study. So, you know, I'm open to having more of a robust conversation on this topic. I don't know if everything Bobby Kennedy's putting out there is entirely accurate, but I encourage your comments on it. In fact, for countervailing views on health and elections, go to cdc.gov, who.int, and cisa.gov/rumor control for countervailing views. Because we're not allowed to talk about vaccines. At least we weren't for a while. I think we've turned the corner on that. And elections. I think a majority of the country now wants an investigation into 2020 to figure out what's going on. And Even Rosie O'Donnell is calling 2024 into dispute. So there's a huge number of people that want better voting transparency. And that would probably just be paper ballots, same day voting, voter identification required, and call it a day. So yeah, all we want is real justice, and we just want real information. We're trying to find it.
And they looked at the data. They looked at children who had received the hepatitis vaccine within the first 30 days of life, and compared those children to children who had received the vaccine later or not at all. And they found an 1,135% elevated risk of autism among the vaccinated children.
I need some additional context. What are we missing?
And it shocked them. They kept the study secret, and then they manipulated it through 5 different iterations to try to bury the link. And, what you would do if you wanted to find the answer, which is to compare out.
Hold on. Did he start this over again? I thought he said something very similar to that.
Outcomes in a fully vaccinated group to health outcomes in an unvaccinated group. And CDC did that study in 1999.
Okay, I think we heard.
We know how they did it. They got rid of all the older children, essentially, and just had younger children who were too young to be diagnosed. And they stratified.
If he has a proper understanding of this, and that's what they did, they rigged it so that they could eliminate, just like there were claims that of the latest batch of doses, if you had an adverse event or an adverse reaction within a day or two, or within the first couple days or first couple hours or first couple weeks, you were eliminated from the project or the study. So those negative ramifications wouldn't count, but you'd already be permanently disabled, temporarily inconvenienced, made worse, or eliminated from the planet. But those wouldn't count in the final numbers, trying to say who had a negative outcome. Like, I don't know. I don't know how valid that claim is. I've heard that. But if you're just trying to selectively edit now that you got a bad result, like the picture that Bobby Kennedy is painting is absolutely damning if true.
I stratified the data, and they did a lot of other tricks. And all of those studies were the subject of that kind of trickery. We know how they did it. They got.
Man. Andrew says, thankfully, the CDC and its scientists only did this once with this one specific vaccine and this one specific study ever. Everything else is all good. They're trying to find the study. They're saying you might not be able to find the study. So is this an unproven claim? But we're asking, can we please start the indictments for crimes against humanity? If the evidence is there, then we should be able to get a indictment, right? And if it's not, then maybe we ought to be a little bit more cautious making the claims. All right, here's Bobby Kennedy making news again, talking about Fauci, someone who I want held accountable. Nay, I demand he is held accountable. Demand. I hold him personally responsible for a lot of bad things that have happened to my family.
Was vulnerable. I think he had a lot of liability on creating coronavirus. He was funding precisely that research at the Wuhan lab. Yep. And he was giving them the technology. He was giving them, he gave them not only the technology, the precise technology for developing that pathogen, and published about it, by the way. And, the publications credit NIH for financing the studies, but he also gave them, one of his fundees, Ralph Barrick, from the University of North Carolina, developed a technique called the seamless ligation technique, which is a technique for hiding the laboratory origins of a virus, of a manipulated virus. So that normally, if there's a virus manipulated, you can look at it. Researchers can look at it. They can look at the DNA sequences, and they can say this thing was created in a lab. But Ralph Barrick had developed a technique that he called the no-seam technique, and its technical name was seamless ligation.
Yeah, we're ready. We can unleash the indictments, please. I do hold him responsible. Just saw a story here. Let me see if this is true. World Series of Poker? Is this breaking news? Okay, chip dumping scandal. Hang on. Is that this year? WSOP scandal 2025. Suspicious betting patterns, uncontested raises.
This is we're offering up our National Guard and other.
Oh, why did that do that?
Normally, these taxes grow. So thanks for doing that. I think that's well.
Okay, hang on. I did have more stories to share. All right, here you go. It's a comic to go see when he's out and about. Jeff Dye. He said, my liberal friend who says borders are just imagined. By the way, what I was trying to find, and it's proving to be a little complicated. Let me see if I can grab it off ESPN. Or maybe just, I typed it into Grok. Maybe just search for it as a story. Hang on. It started auto-playing, so I had to switch. World Series of Poker banned Jesse Yaginuma and James Carroll. Their names removed from the results and their user IDs deleted. Club WPT Gold is paying out the $1 million. The evidence is circumstantial at best. There were no other participants during Heads Up, therefore it would be irrelevant anyway. Even if there were, per World Series of Poker rules, collusion is defined as an agreement between or among two or more participants to engage in illegal or unethical acts. Last night, they were made aware of a potential breach of the official. First and second haven't been confirmed. I don't know. That was an interesting story. I'm not seeing exactly what I need to finish telling you the story. So just if anybody sees that, tag me on the best explanation of it. I just popped on ESPN. I thought it was breaking news, and maybe there's an update. Let me just go to ESPN. Well, they're showing Malik Beasley might have been gambling and maybe he had financial issues. Expect to see more of this for real. All right. Here's the story from today. I got to close a page here. Maybe another page. Maybe a third page. Geez, I have too many pages open. Goodness. All right, closing another page. That should work. There you go. Wow, that was interesting. In the wake of a collusion scandal that saw two players allegedly agree to allow one of them to win the 1,500 millionaire maker event, is that 1.5 or this says $1,500 millionaire maker event. The WSOP handed down an unprecedented ruling, concluding in order to uphold the integrity of the game, no winner will be recognized and no bracelet will be awarded for this year's tournament. What? WSOP said in a statement posted to social media, the remaining prize pool will be split between the final two players. It's the first time no bracelet was awarded WSOP live event because of integrity concerns. Earlier this year, the series canceled its online $250 mystery bounty event due to technical issues and didn't put in a bracelet there. The winner, Jesse Yaganuma, and James Carroll, who came in second, allegedly dumped chips to Yaganuma during heads-up play. But if they're heads-up, I don't understand. If it's down to only two people, that's not heads-up. That's tanking so someone else can win. Like, what? It doesn't... Or maybe weird betting is part of... I wanted to get in his head and confuse him. They'll evenly split the $2.3 million in combined winnings. They don't allow deals to be made between players so they can split prize money evenly, otherwise known as a chop. All right, I don't know. Interesting story. Not that interesting. I'll move along. Jeff Dye here said, my liberal friend who says borders are just imaginary lines, it's the same person who won't shut up about how we live on stolen land. You get it? Kind of get how I was reading that in the personality of Jeff Dye? I think I read it just like him. Maybe. Maybe you have to know Jeff Dye and his style to get it. Deb says, oh no, your ex caved into peer pressure at work to take the jab. Ooh, he's had physical conditions ever since he took it, plus boosters. Oh no. Yeah. Like I said, I didn't take it, and here I am, and my brother didn't take it, and there he's gone. Double pneumonia COVID. So I don't know. I don't claim to know all of the answers. I wish it was as easy as, just it's only older fat people that need to, they're the most at risk. They need the most help. Then you can argue whether it helps them at all, but maybe in a certain age bracket it sort of does, but I don't know. But yeah, I like Jeff Dye just pointing out this, if this is his actual quote. I always wonder how likely it is that a quote that I'm reading is actually attributable to the person I'm seeing who's saying it. But either borders exist or they don't. My body, my choice. My country, my choice. All right, let's see how the tariffs are doing. People, there was a lot of panic on tariffs, but Trump was like, don't be a panicking. He's like, there was a time where we didn't even have an income tax. And those losers and radicals at the Federal Reserve came in, charging their usury, as they usually do. They said, sir, you're usually on the usury. I said, that rhymes. But here we are with the tariffs, getting it done, a record windfall. Never before seen. It's maybe since before 1913. That rhymed too. Did we have a booming economy because of tariffs? Not income tax or the IRS. Boo. Because of tariffs. And they said, sir, maybe you outsmarted them. You're damn right I did. Here's this lady on CNBC. Usually a bunch of losers, but they're getting it right today.
How much we've been collecting in revenues. And I did this in part because Wilfred's here and he can talk about the UK trade deal. But just this is the monthly numbers. And they have gone up a lot. June is actually set for another big increase of $27 billion. That is money coming into U.S. coffers from tariffs. We are collecting a lot of revenue so far, guys.
So can we work this into the big, beautiful bill and be like, okay, while it's technically doing this, we're also offsetting it by this much in Doge cuts that are temporary, and then you're going to codify them as soon as you get the chance to pass it the next time after the next. Okay. And then we're also going to add all this revenue, and we're going to bring in all this extra investment to add more tax dollars. Maybe it is part of a bigger plan, a bigger, more beautifuler plan. How are you going to count one aspect of the entire entire nationwide business plan without counting on $121 billion coming in? I think it needs to count. I think we need to count. This needs to be factored into the mathematical equation as to what President Trump is doing. I think it might be a little unfair of Rand Paul and Thomas Massie to only look at the big, beautiful bill and say, well, you're overspending. It's obvious. It's malfeasance. It's reckless. It's going to destroy our country. Like, okay, well, are you broadcasting at the top of the mountain, saving $121 billion coming in from tariffs? Because let's face it, the jury's still out. We got to see the long-term ramifications. Will the suppliers and creators eat those expenses, or will those be passed on to the consumer? Well, we're going to find out. Preliminary reports are pretty shockingly fantastic. Maybe we could get rid of this damn, some say, unconstitutional Internal Revenue Service sooner than we thought. Let's not put the cart ahead of the horse, but record highs for the S&P 500 and NASDAQ, and more tariff money coming in than ever. Like, imagine going and bending over backwards so much to keep this man out of office because you were terrified he would fix the problems that you artificially created to steal from us, to money launder from us, to become pirates and feast like vultures, feast like leeches on our skin off of our interest. Little vampires, blood-sucking vampires, little ticks, blood-suckers, vampires. Oh, yeah, definitely got to take him out in Butler, Pennsylvania, because checks notes. He's going to fix all the broken stuff. Okay, yeah, Orange Man bad. Imagine playing for the other team right now. It's either Team America or the 30% that are never going to be happy about anything. And they need to step aside and let the adults fix some of this stuff because it's urgent. We're taking in water and we have to fix stuff.
It's $121 billion has flowed into the U.S. government since the start of the fiscal year. It's still a tiny portion of the overall revenues that the U.S. government gets, but it's increasingly a lot, especially we haven't seen it in terms of the consumer paying off higher inflation. Look how much we've been collecting.
Yeah, so I'll say I voted for this button. That'll be my comment. I voted for this. Here's a raid in North Carolina. 30 illegal aliens arrested. Nick Sorter reporting, many of which were charged. They were charged with felonies like aggravated identity theft. They're sneaking in and they're trying to pretend they're other people. You don't get to do that here. Nope. I don't know what your purpose is. And that's criminal. To try to steal identities, to try to what? You're going to qualify to steal money? You're going to qualify to vote? No thanks. Out of our house, please. And by please, I mean now. Don't get it twisted. We're not asking. We're informing.
So whoever that needs to be, I need to come ASAP.
They're saying the first tenants of Alligator Alcatraz are now in custody. Matt Van Swol says, goodbye. You broke into this country illegally. You get deported. We don't want illegal alien criminals here in North Carolina taking Americans' jobs. hold the employer accountable too. Nick says, the ones who stole money from elderly Americans should be used as gator food rather than deported. Now, Nick, if you're seriously considering corporal charges for an invader, a foreign invader breaking in to steal from our elderly, I would advise you to put that on the ballot for your local legislator to have passed into law so that the judges can enact that. I think I would be in favor of that. You want to come in here and steal from our elderly? No, it's our job to protect our elderly. And screw you, foreign invader, for coming in here and trying to go after our most vulnerable people. I would actually support that, but only after legislation were passed. So I like to follow the law on that stuff. The generic patriot. Someone's got to pay the alligators for Alcatraz. Sarah says we need ICE in Minnesota. Waltz hires illegals for state jobs. It's a nightmare. What? That guy looked high as a kite. Like if you wanted a definition of a diagonal man, that guy was like, and I said, and I said, Look at that cartoon character. I'm not saying he was, but he looked like he was. Yep. What about the companies that illegally hired these people? You got to go after the employers. They took our jobs. Oh no, that says Buckeye. Uh-oh.
This one, really.
There you go. So that's happening. Well, here was the optimism from yesterday. We've already jumped the shark on the lead because the news was breaking and we kind of unpacked that together. But this was the word we were getting late last night.
I sure think we do have the votes. I think we cannot let this moment pass to have the largest tax savings in American history. The average American family back home is going to save $1,000 a month when this bill passes. We're going to see.
I don't know how we're going to save $1,000 a month if everything's staying the same. We got to get this inflation under control, right?
Secure the border. Look, this is President Trump's legacy. If you supported President Trump, you should support this legacy. It's going to allow us to secure the border, not just this
Yeah, the border is necessary.
year, but for years going into the
And it's funded years into the future. I agree. That was good.
future.
So we'll be here as long as it takes for us to show the American people that this is bad policy. This is going to kick 17 million people off of their health care.
Well, the whole healthcare system was destroyed by Democrats. Once again, you can't blame the Republicans for trying to fix the situation.
Give a big, giant tax cut to the wealthiest Americans. We're literally going to take money from people that don't have it, that's used to pay a doctor or a hospital when they're sick. And that money is going to be transferred to the richest people in our country.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that's wrong.
I sure think we do have the votes. I think we.
So there you go. All right, let's bounce over to X. See what we got here. Of course, there's our Patreon link pinned if anyone wants to sign up to be a monthly subscriber to Patreon. $5, $15 a month, $100 a month, $1,000 a month, $10,000 a month. You too can sponsor a freedom-loving, joke-telling, entertaining, independent journalist such as myself. And yes, vampires do suck. Yeah, go take a long walk off a short pier, they say. Take a long walk off a short pier. Go take a walk in Alligator Alcatraz, would you? Yeah, tell him the Sandman sent you. All right, so what is this? I reposted this. Permanent tax credit scholarships, a move toward true education freedom in all 50 states. Let's get an explanation on this one.
Friends, I am so excited. Today marks a major milestone in our journey towards true education freedom in America.
Guys, I'm so excited.
The United States Senate released its version of the Big Beautiful Bill today, and in it is one of the most powerful policy victories we have ever seen: permanent tax credit scholarships. That is right, permanent. For the first time, federal law could allow individuals to receive a tax credit up to $5,000 or 10% of their income for donating to nonprofit scholarship funding organizations. These K-12 scholarships will help families choose the education that best meets their children's needs in all 50 states. They can access a private or faith-based education if that is what they desire.
Oh, this is a major move against the teachers' unions, trying to dominate and indoctrinate your kids. You know, they inflate the money. They flood the workforce. So it used to be one person would go to work, the man usually. One woman would stay home and raise the family, usually. The mother would raise the child, and the father would come home from work and co-parent, and the mother would take care of all of the things that need taken care of because it's a full-time job. There's so much going on. But now the mother and father are both working at jobs that are paying half of what they should, so they both have to work it just to survive. And the kids are being indoctrinated for 8 hours a day by someone that's not their parent to give them totally different ideology through their indoctrination. So now if you want to opt out of that system, it's permanently available for you as an option to make it much easier and affordable for you to do so. That sounds like a good thing. I'm open to anybody telling me what I'm missing on this. What's the bad?
This is the breakthrough that we have been fighting for.
I would imagine that teachers' unions wouldn't like it because they're not going to have as much of a monopoly on saying, no. It takes a village, don't you know? We are in charge of your child, not you. We are in charge of your child. That's been the tug of war here. No. We're going to keep it from you if a child becomes gender confused because of our radical indoctrination in the schools. And we're going to give them puberty blocker medication, permanent sterilization, and maybe even scalpel surgery. You know, it's not up to you. It's up to us because we're the educator and we know what's best for your child, not you. This is a reminder that the children do not belong to the educators. The educators are temporarily being allowed to give them useful skills to succeed in life, not to brainwash and indoctrinate them full of ideology that doesn't mesh with how we feel in a household. That seems to be what just happened here. If the way that she's reporting this is accurate.
For decades. Now, we're not all the way there. The Senate released their version. The House already advanced these provisions a little bit different. We like the Senate version better. And this is a great sign, but we still need final passage again through the House and, of course, President Donald Trump's signature. So today we will celebrate the momentum. We want to thank the Senate for its leadership. We want to thank the House for moving first and our champions in both chambers. And of course, we recognize President Donald J. Trump, the school choice president, who has championed this policy from the beginning and has never stopped fighting for families. So this is not just symbolic, it is substantial. It is going to make a huge difference for families across our country.
The golden age of American education is within reach, the Post says. Okay. Tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans, it says. No taxes on overtime and tips. Anyone under 65 has to work 80 hours a month to get Medicaid. No Planned Parenthood funding. No more electric vehicle credit. Hike debt ceiling by $5 trillion. $150 billion for immigration crackdown. All right. Well, that's what's going on in the world. What other stories did we want to talk about? I mean, now we got to see what happens. They had an 11th hour scramble, setting up a high-stakes fight in the House. Here's the cost of living crisis explained.
That's the cost of living crisis. Suddenly we went up from prices being around there to prices being there. And you don't really see that in this data, okay? Because inflation is really just measuring the difference between that and that. And if you look at those two lines, you're talking about a 2.3% change. That's the number we're talking about today. But for a lot of people, it's not about that. It's about the difference between this and that. And when you look at the difference between this and that, that's 20%. And I think that's the dichotomy here between these inflation numbers where it looks normal and this, which is really not normal at all. That's the...
Yep. That is insanity. What do we do to make up the difference there? National debt by year. Elon, says they just pretend to be two parties. It's just one uniparty in reality. Showing Republicans and Democrats adding to the debt. So, do you agree or disagree with Elon that this is just one party? I say it all the time. It's, two wings of the same dirty bird. I mean, the priorities are very different. Spending's been bonkers for a lot of years now. Kind of going up a little reasonably. Clinton, it had a boost through Bush and then just absolutely skyrocketed from Obama. Went from about 9. It looks like it doubled under 8 years of Obama. Whatever the entire national debt was, it doubled. When Bush took over, it was 5 and almost went to 9. That's almost doubled. Clinton went from 4 to 5. That was pretty decent. Anyway, neither of the major parties has been successful so far in addressing the issue. Well, tariff revenue helps. I think that's what I had to share with you today. We're going to unpack the big, beautiful bill. Follow us in all the places as we unpack the rest of the day's news. All right. Yep, agree from David and Deb. All right, cool. I'm going to sign out, and we'll be back again tomorrow with the TNAM Daily Show. I don't even know if I don't think I even had it up in the screen, did I? Nope, not that one. There's one logo. See, I didn't even put the logos up for today's program. Where'd it go? Ah, there it is. Now it's in the corner. All right. We'll be back tomorrow covering more of it. But hey, big, beautiful bill is passed. Sort of. We'll see what happens. Is the House going to change more things? Are they going to rubber stamp it? We shall see. Clinton was making enough through coke dealings. Hey, and Whitewater. Whitewater was quite the lark. Whitewater was wonderful. Oh, yeah, they did quite well for Whitewater. Anyway, all right, I'll be back tomorrow. Thank you, everybody. On behalf of everybody out there in the TNAM universe, I appreciate you. I love you, and we will talk to you again soon. Take care, everybody. Peace.
Your guide to the truth. TheNewAmericanMedia.com.